Now, 11 minutes past the hour here in Moscow. Britain should quit the European Union. That's what a group of campaigners is calling for in London. The People's Pledge believe the EU undermines Britain's sovereignty and is costing too much. Their demand for a nationwide referendum will be discussed in Parliament on Monday. The group has opened a congress in London, and we can cross live there now and speak to Douglas Carswell, a Conservative MP and supporter and council member for the People's Pledge. Thank you for coming on the programme today. The EU is vulnerable now. It's been a tough year with the whole Eurozone and the crippling debt crisis. Now's a time when the EU needs England. Why do you want the UK to leave now?
Well, two reasons. It's costing us a great deal of money. We're spending billions of pounds bailing out a currency we didn't even choose to join. But it's not just about economics, it's about democracy. For too long in this country, we've left it to the political elite to decide these questions. If you believe in democracy, surely you should trust the people. The people need to have a say. Should we stay in the European Union? Should we leave the European Union? Or should we fundamentally renegotiate our position within the European Union? It's time to have this debate and have it discussed publicly.
So, as you say, the focus is not just on economics, but also fundamentally that of democracy as well. We understand that public support for leaving the EU is actually quite high in Britain, but many politicians, including the Prime Minister, are opposed to the idea. What are the chances of the UK actually leaving the Union?
Well, I think we will eventually get an in-out referendum. I mean, it's going to take some time, and this vote on Monday, I'm sorry to say, I don't think we'll actually achieve the outcome that we need, but it's a step in the right direction. Momentum for a referendum is now growing. It's now becoming unstoppable. What we're seeing on Monday is significant because it's the first time in a generation when the question of Britain's membership of the European Union has been put on the agenda, and it shows it's not a settled question. Now, you're right. A lot of politicians don't want to talk about this. A lot of politicians don't like to even think about it. But the people want it discussed, and it's not going to go away.
Well, it certainly seems like this movement is gaining some steam here. But now the UK has been part of the unified Europe for almost 4 decades now. Surely there must have been some benefits to it.
Well, when we joined the European Union in the early 1970s, we thought we were joining a prosperous trading bloc. Europe at that time constituted about 36% of global GDP. It turns out that by 2020, Europe will account for about 15% of global GDP. So, far from joining a prosperous trading bloc, we've shackled ourselves to an economic corpse. The economic rationale for being in the European Union, I think, has largely gone. We want to be global players. We want to have free trade relationships with the world, not just with Belgium and a few indebted states across the Channel.
Now, on a more domestic front, you're part of the Conservative Party. Is there a fair amount of dissension in the ranks here, as the Prime Minister is absolutely against what you're proposing?
Well, the political elite in all parties are denying or trying to do what they can to deny a referendum. They've instructed their MPs on Monday to vote against this motion. But the key thing you've got to understand here is that all 3 parties were promising us a referendum on Europe until very, very recently. So, it's almost as if it's the political elite against the will of the people. And, ultimately, as we know from what happens around the world, ultimately you can't stop democracy. We're going to have this referendum eventually. This week marks an important stepping stone towards that.
Now, you look at the likes of Greece, Italy, Spain, Portugal. It's been a tough year. 2011 has been very difficult for members of the Eurozone. There is talk of some countries quitting this European neighbourhood. If the UK were to leave the EU, could this almost be the beginning of the end for a unified Europe?
I hope it is the beginning of an end for a Europe orchestrated and arranged by the grand design of technocrats in Brussels. What we need to see is a breakup of the euro so that, once again, people have a currency that suits the people rather than trying to make the people suit the currency. You see in Greece, you see in Italy, you see in Ireland, enormous sacrifices being imposed upon ordinary folks, hard-working people, to prop up a currency that is the grand design of a rotten political establishment. That is the fundamental problem. We need a Europe where arrangements are made to suit the people, not...
All right, we do apologise there. We just lost the connection there with Douglas Carswell, a Conservative MP and Advisory Council member for the People's Pledge, about this referendum, about this vote for a referendum about England and its troubles with the EU. More details on that on our website.